All right, thank you for staying with us. As I said earlier, this first part of the conversation is about the rule of law, essentially. So let me make that clear. And the justice system in Nigeria, the way it runs, the court of law, either at the magistrate level, the High Court, the Appeal Court, the Federal High Court, up to the Apex Court, the Supreme Court, there are provisions for them, in our laws. And there is another court called the Sharia Court, quite popular up north, and we learned all are, constitutionally backed to do what they do, adjudicating on cases as well, but how does this work? Because there is a development, and that is that invitation, card that has been made viral, and it has been attributed to an Islamic group under the aegis of the Supreme Council for Sharia in Nigeria, right? The Oyo State chapter, that it was reported that they have set plans to unveil a Sharia court in the state and its environs. The group in that flyer that went viral on Tuesday invited guests from across the country to the court's inauguration ceremony, which will be held, on January 11, 2025 at the Muslim Community Islamic Center of Adeyemi High School in Oyo. That's in Oyo town, in Oyo State as well. And, many persons were listed, guests that would grace that occasion. But that has been generating ripples, especially in this southwestern part of the country. Many persons are saying Sharia court. Here at the southwest, we call it what it is in Yoruba land. Why? Why do we need that? And if there will be Sharia court, what process should be followed? Will it be a function of a particular group? In this case, the Supreme Council for Sharia in Nigeria. Are they the body that will just feel, like you are publicizing something, or you are spreading a particular institution? Okay, next is Oyo State. That's the way it works. Shouldn't that be the work of the judiciary? But what do I know? But, graciously, we have somebody that knows with us. He is a lawyer, and of course, a law lecturer with the University of Hull in the UK. And of course, a very, very respected friend of the program, Dr. Misbah Latif. He joins us virtually from the UK. Good morning, sir, and compliment of the season. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, good morning, and thank you. Compliment of the season to you and all your viewers.
All right. Thank you very much, for drawing you out of your holiday to be with us this morning. We appreciate it.
It's okay. That's fine.
All right. Good.
Okay.
You had my introduction, and you know the development. And many persons are raising eyebrow. We get there, especially about the practice of the Sharia court, and some of the things that people are raising eyebrows about. But firstly, what was your first reaction when you got this information that a particular body, the Sharia Council, Supreme Council for Sharia in Nigeria, they are going to launch in a kind of way a Sharia court in Oyo town, in Oyo State? What was your first reaction?
Well, let me say that I didn't really get to know about this until I received your invite yesterday to come and speak on your program today.
Yeah. And
in all honesty, that was even, when I decided to read up on the issue. From the tidbit I've seen so far, well, my reaction basically is to say, I think there has been a lot of miscommunication on the part of those who intend to organize that event. And I think there has also been some misunderstanding on the part of those who have raised concern. So basically, I'm just observing, and I'm still trying to understand, why there has been so much miscommunication and also misunderstanding. So let me put it that way as a start.
All right. Now, let's start from here. Sharia court, as a lawyer and for information purpose and education purpose, is it in our laws? Actually, is it backed up by the Constitution? Is it supposed to be limited to a particular section of the country? Can you shed more light on that?
All right, thank you so much for your question. Let me start by saying Sharia law, or what you can call Islamic law, is actually part of the laws of Nigeria, and it is backed by the Constitution. And speaking personally, let me say it is also part of the curricula in Nigerian university. As a matter of fact, I taught Islamic law at Obafemi Awolowo University for almost a decade. Let me say 7 years precisely. I taught Islamic law in that university as part of our modules, for undergraduate law. So basically, there are several provisions of the Constitution of Nigeria, particularly Section 272, 275, and I think up to 277, which recognize what we call Islamic personal law. So as a matter of fact, and this is where I said earlier that I think there has been a lot of misunderstanding on the part of those who have raised concern. And this is not to say their concerns are not genuine. No, I'm not saying that. And as I've also said, I think there's also been a lot of miscommunication on the part of those who intend to organize the event. I think they have not communicated properly well. Otherwise, the issue of whether there is Islamic law in Nigeria or whether Islamic law is a component of the Nigerian law, should not have arisen, because that issue has been settled long time ago. Nigeria operates a pluralized, if you like, legal system. I mean, a country with multiple laws. You have the received English law, you have the Nigerian legislations, you have the customary law, and then you have Islamic law. So this has been part of our laws pre-independence and post-independence. Now, talking about localization or maybe geographical location and all of that, unfortunately, there has been, I would say, the erroneous thoughts that Islamic law is geographically localized or located in the northern part of Nigeria. And this misinformation has gone for a long time. And as a result of that, many people think that the application of Islamic law under the Constitution of Nigeria does not extend to the southern part of the country. Then the question is, what happens to the Muslim in the southern part, who also constitutes a chunk, not a majority really, I think a chunk of the population in the south of Nigeria. So basically, Islamic law is not restricted to any location in Nigeria. It is all over Nigeria as part of the Constitution of Nigeria.
All right, quick one. So, if actually is part of our laws constitutionally backed, and but then let's talk about the court itself, because this particular invite, we'll have that invite up shortly, is saying, he's talking about the installation. I want to get inauguration, rather, Supreme Council for Sharia in Nigeria. And, your chapter, Fijio, Atiba, or your East and or your West, local government cordially invites -- to the inauguration ceremony of Sharia court in Oyo town and its environs. And the reason why many persons are raising eyebrows is, who has that duty, to inaugurate a court? Is it an organization or the Nigerian judiciary?
All right, thank you for that question. And that speaks to my point earlier about the idea of miscommunication. And I want to say this with all clarity. There is no single individual or group of persons, with constitutional right or powers to set up or organize a court of law, properly so called. So it is not within the powers of anyone to say they want to organize or set up a court of law, in the sense that the Constitution of Nigeria recognizes it, particularly in Section 6 of the 1999 Constitution, and then some other provisions, that set up the court of laws in Nigeria, and also the laws of several states. So, and this is where I think the organizer probably have played into the hand of those who have also misunderstood them, So basically, it is not lawful, I would say, or it is not really possible for any person or individual to set up a Sharia court, properly so called. However, there is no limit to the right of citizens to organize what you can call, a private mediatory or conflict resolution framework or avenue for people to approach to resolve their disputes. As a matter of fact, we have the arbitration and conciliation law in Nigeria, which recognizes what you can call a private arbitration or mediation processes and all of that. So basically for me, I think the organizer should have properly framed, what they intend to do. And from the little that I've read yesterday, I do not think they actually intend to set up a court of law properly so called, because as I said, they do not have such power or right. And at any rate, setting up any such, I would say, unlawful or unconstitutional body, and which will lack the force of law, will be inconsequential at the end of the day, because you will not be able to enforce whatever comes out of that medium. So basically for me, I think the organizer should have properly communicated what they intend to do, because as I speak to you now, and I want you to actually confirm this, in almost all the states of southwest of Nigeria, we have what we call independent Sharia panel. Some of these panels have been in existence for over 2 decades. I know the one in Lagos, for example. In the same Oyo State, there has been an independent Sharia panel. In Oshogbo, as I speak to you now, and as a matter of authority, there is an independent Sharia panel. But these are private initiatives, a private forum for people of Islamic faith to approach to resolve their dispute or issue bordering on their personal law. And I want to be very careful here. When I say dispute, not issues on penal or criminal issues. I mean, personal issues like issues of marriage, issues of custody of a child, issue of inheritance, issue of, an Islamic gift and all of that. I say this because the Constitution of Nigeria actually recognizes what we call Islamic or Muslim personal law. And all of these issues are issues of Muslim. And I give just one example. An Islamic marriage, for example, is a constitutional type of marriage in Nigeria. As a matter of fact, Nigerian constitution recognizes only 3 types of marriages, or Nigerian laws generally. You have the English marriage, which is otherwise known as courts or church marriage. You have the customary marriage, and then you have Islamic marriage. So if a Muslim marries under Islamic law, for example, that marriage by law, and I mean the Constitution of Nigeria and other laws, is governed or regulated by Islamic law. Now, if that Muslim seeks to pursue a divorce tomorrow, or there is an issue regarding custody of a child in that marriage, where do they go to? As I speak to you now, there is not any forum in the southwest of Nigeria for a Muslim to do that. So basically for me, I think what the organizer have not properly communicated, is that they intend to have an independent forum to fill the vacuum that some of the states in the southwest of Nigeria, have left unfilled for several years compared to their counterparts in the north, where, for example, you have the area courts in the north. The area courts in the north, they deal with issue of personal Muslim law or Islamic law. The Sharia Court of Appeal of the states in the north, they also deal with such issue. But in the southwest of Nigeria, there are no such courts. And as I said earlier, so basically, this vacuum, as I've come to understand it, is what these persons intend to fill. Because unfortunately, the government of the southwest of Nigeria, not all of them, I should clarify, because I understand now as I speak to you, and you may also want to confirm that in Lagos State, that vacuum has since been filled, pursuant to Section 22 of the Customary Law of Lagos State 2015. Now, under that Section 22, the Chief Justice of Lagos State is empowered to designate you can call it a division of the customary court in Lagos State, to undertake issues arising or bordering on Islamic or Muslim personal law.
Right.
And I can tell you that there is one of such court, particularly in Ifako-Ijaye section of Lagos State. Now, so basically, what other states in the Southwest particularly need to do is to fill that vacuum. So that Muslims, for example, who have contracted their marriage under Islamic law and who may wish to pursue one issue or the other relating to their personal law, we have such forum to resort to. Because I speak to, and I really want to emphasize that, just to, enlighten the public. If a Muslim in Oshogbo, for example, today, wishes to divorce from his or her marriage, there is no forum to do that.
Right.
Now, you want to ask me, what happened to the regular court? Unfortunately, and I tell you this with authority,
right,
there are Supreme Court decisions to the effect that a customary court, for example, does not have jurisdiction over Islamic marriage. And this is quite clear because Islamic law is recognized independently or separately under the laws of Nigeria. So Islamic law is not a customary law, and customary law is not Islamic law. So when you have issues, on Islamic law, you cannot go before a customary court. And the court in Nigeria have decided that. So where does a Muslim in Oshogbo go to? Where does a Muslim in Akure goes to? So these are the issues I think the organizer have not communicated properly. And unfortunately, people who have raised concern, as I said, they also have the legitimate right, to be curious as to what exactly is afoot. So basically, in summary, they do not have the power to set up a court regularly so-called, but they have powers or right to have independent forum, which may not really have the force of law, to be honest with you.
Okay. There is a statement on the Vanguard yesterday from the youth saying that, I read and I quote, "We want the federal government not to create divisions in Yoruba land. Our focus is on Yoruba nation self-determination, and we will not allow external influence to derail our struggle." Do you think this will bring division in the Yoruba land?
To be honest, I don't think so. And I say this with all sense of responsibility, not because I'm a Muslim, but because I'm a constitutional law expert. I teach law. I'm a lawyer. I've practiced in Nigeria for over 15 years. And I also taught law, at the university level. And I've related or interacted with people in my community. The question again is this, and I'm happy that in your opening, you did mention or say something about access to justice. If you have a segment of a population that is 50% or almost 50% plus or minus, and that community feels that there is a lack of access to justice, or there is no what you can call an inclusive justice system, just as I've mentioned to you earlier. You see, I've had to deal with this issue, I will tell you, on several occasions, where Muslims, who feel the need to leave their marriage, both men or women, they simply felt, I would say, unable to proceed to do that. So people should not get stuck in a marriage, for example, if they want to leave a marriage. I've had instances where Muslim who wishes to leave their estate, according to Islamic law, which is, Islamic law of inheritance. Now, there have been issues and disputes that people have not been able to find the avenue, to resolve or litigate them. And as I told you earlier, the regular courts by law do not have the powers, to litigate on those personal Islamic law, which the Constitution of Nigeria recognizes. So Muslims in the Southwest, who constitute a chunk of the population of that segment of the country, they actually feel, I would say, cheated, if you like. So if you are talking about access to justice or inclusive justice system, you need to think of what your population desire. So I don't really see any religious disharmony here. Of course, I understand the volatilities around religious issues, the mutual suspicions, Muslims suspect Christian, Christians suspect Muslims. All of those, are part of our system, unfortunately. But beside the sentiment of mutual distrust, I do not think giving access to justice, and I say again, inclusive access to justice to a chunk of this population will constitute any religious harmony. You see, part of the miscommunication, or rather misunderstanding, is that people thought, at the mention of the Sharia law, they think of cutting of hand, they think of other penal aspects of Sharia law. I can tell you with authority that those will definitely not be applicable to Southwest. And the reason is simple. The law of the Southwest state does not approve or accept of the penal aspect of Islamic law. And this is why the Constitution is very specific on the issue of what it calls Muslim or Islamic personal law. That is, these are personal issues, affecting Muslim. Marriage, as I said earlier, divorce, custody of a child, gift, inheritance, and all of those. There are specific Islamic law or rules, guiding this aspect of a Muslim life. And when dispute arises, as they often do in a human society, where do Muslims in the Southwest go to resolve this dispute? Right. Particularly so that the regular court, do not have the powers or authority to resolve such dispute. So people are simply, as I said earlier, trying to fill a vacuum that some states in the Southwest of Nigeria have not filled. And I think this is actually should serve as a wake-up call to government of the Southwest, some of them who have not done that, to copy the example of Lagos State. In Osun, for example, a court can be designated within the customary court system or even the magistracy, to take issues of Muslim personal law as recognized by the Constitution. So that if a Muslim feels, a Muslim in Osogbo feels to go through a divorce proceeding, he or she will not have to travel up north to go and do that.
Yeah. Doctor, are you saying, because let me reiterate that again, especially for the benefit of our viewers, this talk with this morning is essentially for information and education, and of course about the rule of law. So nothing really about the religious aspect of it. And by the way, it is a developing story. The people are reacting to that. So anything of public importance, we usually look into that. So if I get your explanation rightly, Doctor, are you saying any wedding or marriage, done under the Islamic law, the conventional law, which you call the English law, and the customary law cannot adjudicate on it? Is that what you say?
That's what I'm saying with authority. And I tell you with authority again, there are Supreme Court judgment to that effect. And the reason is simple, as I said, Islamic law is not customary law. And customary law is not Islamic law. And I'm telling you again that a matter of law in Nigeria, there are only 3 types of marriages. Right. Islamic marriage, English marriage, which is otherwise known as Christian or church marriage, and then customary marriage. So people go through Islamic marriage almost on daily basis in the Southwest. Okay? Now, when these Muslims go through that kind of marriage, by law, they intend that aspect of their personal life. And this is another definition of what personal life means. Personal law, things that are personal to you. Issues of contract, for example, issue of inheritance. The Constitution regards all of these as personal issues that are private to individuals. So, and some of them are guided by people's religious belief. So basically, yes, the regular courts, a customary court in Osogbo, for example, does not have the constitutional competence to adjudicate over an Islamic marriage. So, and in the north, on the other hand, an area court has that constitutional right because the court are set up for those purposes. So this is the vacuum I'm talking about, that the Southwest state may need to fill up so that people will not, continue to bring up their own private initiative. You see, nature abhors, a vacuum, as the popular saying goes. And for as long as the government or those in government have failed,
is that a lacuna in our laws?
It is not a lacuna, really. I think it is a failure on the part of those who govern us, because Section 275 of the Constitution, for example, say there shall be a Sharia court of appeal of a state for any state that so wishes. Okay? Now, if I'm a governor of a state, and I know that a chunk of my population, it belongs to a particular religion, and I know this is what they desire, to have an inclusive access to justice. I mean, I would definitely consult with the people, then I will go ahead and give them.
So in other words, you're saying that this Sharia court is something that should be in practically all the states of the nation.
Yes, it should be, because Islamic law is not geographically, I would say, located. Islamic law and the aspect that are personal to Muslim are everywhere. You know, it is everywhere you go. Okay, let me tell you, and this is a personal experience or example, if you like. I got married under Islamic law. I did not go to any courts or any registry, and I've taken my marriage everywhere around the world. I mean, the US, the UK, and all of that. Now, the point about that is this. That is the law that governs my marriage. Now, if I hope to go through a divorce, God forbid, or any other thing, I'm permitted, even here in the UK, to subject my proceeding to the tenet of that Islamic personal law. Because issues of marriage, for example, you know, or issues like that are regarded as personal aspect of a man's or woman's life. So basically, yes, the word Sharia, I understand, may trigger, you know, some reactions, you know, preconceptions or misconception and all of those. So I don't know, whatever it is called, the important thing is that people have what I call an inclusive access to justice. Right. So, and I repeat this, I mean, for emphasis, a Muslim in Osogbo today does not have a place to go to resolve his marital dispute. He cannot go to a regular court.
Yeah, doctor,
he cannot
because
go
of
to
time.
Regular court for issue of inheritance.
Yeah. What are those things, you know, and who are those people that can be dragged to a Sharia court? Because we learned, okay, issue of divorce, inheritance, you've mentioned many of it, but many persons will say the sentiment being raised around there, the highbrows, is the way it's being practiced, you know, in major states of the north, in which sometimes arms are amputated, at least in, I think in Zamfara State, some part of Sokoto as well, in Kano. There is the moral police called Hizbah. They call themselves the morality police. You know, they go after people who they feel are indecently dressed. A man and woman cannot go to a hotel together, especially if they are not married. And some of those things, they attack, you know, trucks and trucks of alcohol. They destroy it. And if this thing is my business as a personal business, I'm not a Muslim. I'm not even allowed to drink in a public place, but I'm not a Christian. If you have, I mean, I'm a Christian, you know, for example. Now, I am not a Muslim, and I feel if actually I'm not disturbing you, why should my lifestyle, you know, be a problem? Whatever I do with my time, whatever I do with myself, and many have raised the thing that the extremism, the extreme nature of how it's being practiced in the north is the problem. Why many persons believe, even some Muslims around the Southwest, think at the word Sharia, they just feel, please, please, please. So how does this work? Who are the kind of persons that can be tried in a Sharia court?
Okay, let me say without mincing words, Islamic law does not apply to a non-Muslim by whatever stretch of the imagination. So wherever you have seen such excesses, and I call them excesses or extremism, if truly they can be found, because I've also since gathered that some of these things that people report about the North may not be entirely true. So where those laws have been applied, I believe they were applied against, you know, Muslim. So, but again, the point is that the Sharia law or Islamic law, whether it is of personal nature or penal or criminal nature, does not apply to a non-Muslim. And there is no constitutional power or right for anyone to drag a non-Muslim before a Sharia court or whatever. But let me also make this clarification.
Yeah.
Actually, you know, there are different components of Islamic law. And I've deliberately emphasized the word Islamic personal law as opposed to penal or criminal aspect of Islamic law. So let me say that the criminal aspect of Islamic law does not by any stretch of the imagination apply to the south of Nigeria. And this is not, as I understand it, what these organizers, you know, are canvassing for. And I don't think that will actually be practical or possible. But whatever it is, the law in the North, their penal code, for example, is essentially founded on some aspect of the penal aspect of Islamic law. So basically, the issues of arresting someone, going to an hotel with a woman, whether, those are not part of personal Islamic law. And I've tried to clarify that. Those are criminal components or criminal issues that have been criminalized in those parts of the country. So what we are saying here essentially is not about penal or criminal aspect of Islamic law. Which,
Dr.
as I said
Latif,
again,
are you saying there is a different law for the northern part of the country and there is another one for the southern part of the country?
Well, there are different criminal laws of different states in Nigeria. The criminal laws in Osun State, for example, is not exactly the same as the criminal laws in Lagos State. And I'll give you just an example. In Lagos State, for example, there is nothing like criminal defamation again. But yet, there is criminal defamation in Osun State. In the south of Nigeria, for example, there is no bigamy. Okay, in Lagos State, for example, bigamy is not a crime. I mean, a man who has married under the act, going ahead to take another wife in Lagos State, my point basically is that, yes, there are some variations or differences regarding the aspect of criminal laws of different states in Nigeria. So in the north, essentially, their criminal law, which is fashioned, under what is generally known as penal code, is different from the criminal law in the entire south. So, but what I'm saying is that the Islamic law we are talking about here in the south, which some people have tried to promote through their own private initiative, is not about criminal aspect of Islamic law. It's not about penal aspect of Islamic law. It's about some of these personal issues that affect a Muslim, issues of inheritance, issues of marriage, issues of divorce, issues of custody of a child, and issues of contract. A contract is a personal aspect of a person's life because people enter into contract privately. I can enter into a contract with you, for example, today and say, well, I do not wish to take, let's say, interest. I will not impose anything. Let's say I advance a loan to you or you advance a loan to me. I might say that, well, I'm a Muslim. I don't want to talk about interest or anything. I just want to, so if I decide so, and then we subsequently have a dispute in this contract of loan, if you like, I should have a forum where I can go to litigate my dispute.
Right,
so these
doctor.
are the personal aspects of Islamic law that Muslim of the Southwest, they feel, is lacking for them. And the reason why people have come up with these various private initiatives, which are not unconstitutional, by the way.
Okay. So for clearer knowledge and for clearer understanding of what you've been saying so far, you're saying that this court is about to be inaugurated in the Southwest for personal problems. Let me use personal issues of the Muslims.
Yes, and in saying that, let me clarify, I do not know this group.
Okay.
I do not belong to them. I have no association whatsoever with them. Like I said earlier, I didn't know anything about them until you gave me your invite yesterday. Right. But I've also read up about them, and I've just shared my general knowledge of understanding with you. So if all they intend to do is basically to have this private initiative, which, as I said, has been in the system for a long time, we have an independent Sharia panel in Osogbo as I speak to you. So for anyone who is interested in submitting to them, well, the law does not forbid that. But again, nobody has a constitutional right to set up a court of law properly so called. So nobody can set up a Sharia court in Southwest unless the force of government is involved. Only the government can do that. But people can have private initiative. There's something we call alternative dispute resolution. I'm sure you are aware of that. Many people choose not to go to regular court. They go before ADR. So if people choose to go before ADR, which is not unconstitutional, it is their personal business. I mean, for as long as they stay within the band of the law. So people who come up with this initiative, this is what I think they seek to achieve. Okay. But unfortunately, as I said, I do not think they have communicated their intention properly to the public. And this has led to the misunderstanding that we have seen. So both ways, I think tolerance is very important. Okay. People need to understand, the place of tolerance in some of these disagreement or disputes.
Okay. from the agitations and from the statements read online, I would like to find out also that you said it's basically for personal issues. In the long run of it all, can it be somehow anytime expanded into other issues aside from personal issues?
Well, as far as the Constitution of Nigeria goes today, I do not foresee that. But you see, I don't know how the clairvoyant. I do not see it, to be honest with you. Nigeria is essentially a secular society. I know there is a dispute about this. So it's in a multi-religious society, the best you can do is to allow individual people to practice their faith for as long as they are within the band of the law. So I do not see it within the current framework or constitutional framework in Nigeria. I do not see it expanding beyond anything. And as a matter of fact, if you want to go into history, this was a very hot debate during the constitutional debate of 1979, the issue of what exactly to say in the Constitution. And it was resolved that, okay, let us leave it to the personal Islamic law or issues affecting Muslim personally. Not so that is basically the point.
Yeah, Doctor, let's take it home from here. Two questions. Number one, many persons will say, I said it earlier, that the way it's been practiced, especially in the North, it reeks of hypocrisy. Actually, the Sharia law and the Sharia court to say, name one or two or three high-profile persons that has ever been convicted for something serious, even on the penal side of that particular law. But it's always possibly the people you can say, the peasants, the ones that are not quote and unquote well-to-do, they are the ones always in the trap of this particular law. In fact, the Isba police, some have said, very, that's the opinion to say they are hypocritical. You go about people who you said are indecently dressed. You go around people who said they go to hotels or they dance in a kind of way or they play some kind of music. We say, when the former governor's daughter wanted to wed, it was a lavish, kind of wedding. All kind of secular things were there. All kind of dance were danced. All kind of clothes were worn. You didn't do anything, but when it has to be do with the other persons that doesn't have the name, that is when you come out. So people are kind of resented to say, is this what we are going to have down here as well? So what's your take on that? 30 seconds.
Well, seriously, I do not have any disagreement with that. And I think there is so much hypocrisy here and there, like you rightly said. But unfortunately, I don't think this is limited to the northern part of Nigeria at all, or to the practice of Islamic law. This even applies to our secular laws. We've seen how the same law is applied differently, to different persons depending on status. So these are challenges, I would say, with operation of law generally, and that is not particularly restricted to Islamic law. The high and the low, unfortunately, have always, been treated differently under different laws, even here in the West. I mean, some people, because of status, they tend to get away with many things that other people who are below them. So what each society strives to achieve is to strike a balance, and ensure equality before the law. And I think that is something that we should all encourage, that everybody is treated equally before the law, regardless of their status or name or affiliations.
All right. And, your part in short, it seems there is a development that the organizers, we're not yet sure, are saying, let's postpone this for now. And maybe, for now, because possibly of the agitation, Oyo State Governor yesterday reacted to the matter, that's Engineer Shariah, to say about this particular development. Anything that the law takes, I take. Anything against the law, I will not follow. That was his position. Do you agree with him on that? Or you expect him to make a categorical statement?
Government exists, for purposes like that to douse tension. And I think for me, the lesson here for the organizers is to learn how to communicate properly next time. And for those who have also misunderstood them, I think they need to also calm down to understand that this is not entirely something new. Now, for the government itself, I think the Oyo State government and other states in the Southwest can copy the example of Lagos State, where they have a designated court in Ifako, part of Lagos State, to resolve, issues of personal Muslim law or Islamic law. So they can also do that. When they feel that vacuum, people will not have the urge to fill the vacuum by themselves.
All right. Thank you very much. A law lecturer and, of course, a lawyer, Dr. Misbah Alamulatif. Thank you very much for your time and your take. And from all of us here, I want to thank you for your support all through 2024, although it's not yet over. Possibly we might still have you tomorrow. But compliments of the season to you.
I wish you the same. Thank you, too, for doing a very good job. Thank you.
We appreciate it. All right. That will be the first leg of the conversation.
Yeah.
We'll take this break, and when we return, this is Christmas, because many persons might be wondering, what are these guys doing? We just talked about law and how it is affecting a section of the society and what we need to do better. When we return, we'll talk about the essence of Christmas on a day like this, commemorating the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ. Stay with us.